Şahan Arzruni, in addition to his reputation as a recitalist and chamber music partner, pianist Şahan Arzruni has achieved recognition as a composer, ethnomusicologist, teacher, lecturer, writer, recording artist, broadcasting personality, producer, impresario.
We are here to talk about Cara-Murza. He is one of the earliest of early Armenian composers. Grigor Piderjan has researched the material and has produced a book which is truly extraordinary. Kara-Murza for a long time was forgotten, I would say, especially after 1921 when the Soviets established themselves in Armenia. Anything that was written before 1921, before the Soviet regime, was not worth anything, it was not significant enough. Anything that was produced under the Soviet regime was good. I remember once I was in Yerevan and I was talking to Cecilia Prudian, and we were talking about Edgar Manas. Oh, she said, "Aniga shad primitive yeraj." So she dismissed the whole thing. Now it's a different era, a different time, and I think Mr. Piderjan's book is very timely. And in this book, he has made some phenomenal discoveries. One of them is his discovery of Kara-Murza's Badarat, which were misplaced in the archives of Romanos Melikian, and he found it, he recorded it, and it is part of the book. It's on the back cover of the CD of the book. The other thing which is absolutely interesting is the origin of Armenian national anthem, Mer Hayrenik. And I'd like to talk about that to you. It's a very curious piece. Kara-Murza, like Gomidas, he also collected material. But his particular interest was to collect material that the city dwellers sang. And this was very different from folk songs that Gomidas would collect. What we call urban folk songs are very different from folk songs. And urban folk songs are a kind of hybrid. They are not folk songs at all, but those are melodies that have been borrowed from different cultures, and Armenian words are applied, and Armenian people, the city dwellers, urban people, would sing it. And Kara-Murza collected a great deal of those songs. He actually wrote a piano suite, putting all those different urban songs together. In it there is Zizernak, for example, or Giligia, and also Mer Hayrenik. Now, if you look in various collections of national anthems, American ones, they will say that Mer Hayrenik, the music was written by Parser Ganachyan. If Kara-Murza used the same material in 1882, he published it, then obviously Ganachyan has nothing to do with the Mer Hayrenik. We'll come back to that. Now, what I want to do is for you to play on the piano, put one after the other, 11 various urban folk songs. And he added an introduction and also a coda, an and. These are his own compositions, the beginning and the end. But each urban song is harmonized, I suppose, by him. And also he has provided a bridge between the songs, and you will hear all of that. The other thing I want to tell you is this particular genre of combining various songs was a genre that Gomidas in his Misho Shoror did it phenomenally. His Misho Shoror was written after he got back actually from exile in 1916, and this is a Klukh Korzots, a chef-d'oeuvre. I can't say the same thing about Cara-Murza. It's a first try. It's one of the earliest compositions for Tiflis. But underneath it, you would have seen the whole thing. It says it was printed by a European company in Moscow. So it's all convoluted how it worked out. But the fact that Mer Hayrenik is part of the whole thing is curious. Now, clearly, we know that. Clearly, it is not an Armenian composer who composed the melody of Mer Hayrenik. But don't worry about it, because this has been done all the time. You know Hatikva, the Israeli? That is also borrowed. It's a Romanian folk song. Yes. And the Turkish İstiklal Marşı, that is also borrowed. It's a Finnish song. They were so bad that the words don't fit the melody. But never mind, that's the way that is. And if you take, for example, Ol Mezaskanç Tulezu, everybody knows that. Do you think that's an Armenian melody? Absolutely not, because Gomidas proves that that was a Norwegian melody. So, this borrowing business happens all the time. It's called, as I said, urban folk songs, and it is a genre, and it's studied, and it's curious how they don't even bother to fit the accents of the Armenian words, let's say, into the melody, because the melody would have a high note, and the accent doesn't fall there. So, obviously, it clearly is not. Is it exciting?
Very much so, but
the words of Mer Hayrenik is by Mikhail Nalbantian. He was a very well-known poet during the 19th century, and Yurat Svadzes, it was internalized, it was used, and the anthem was utilized in 1918 by Gananchian as the first Armenian Republic's, first Armenian Republic, is that the right name?
Yes.
Okay. It was the national anthem. And then, you know, it was used again. But before I go there, there's a Russian composer named Alexander Glazunov. Alexander Glazunov, in his ballet, Raymonda, utilized the Mer Hayrenik. How? Where? How is it happening? This is all in Mr. Pidegian's book. This is all his discovery. I'm just telling you. Apparently, Glazunov belonged to a circle of friends, of which there was Nalbantian, the guy who wrote the poet, not the guy, the poet who wrote the words, and also Cara-Murza. And they, apparently, Glazunov was inspired by this melody, Little Hayrenik, not the other Dizernak and the Giligya and all that. He was inspired by Mer Hayrenik, and he wanted to use it in his ballet, Raymonda. That was in 1896. The date of the Raymonda ballet by Glazunov is 1896. Now, in 1910, there is a recording of Mer Hayrenik sung by Hovannes Efendi and recorded by Odeon Records in Greece. And I read the label. It says Tashnaktagan Mereti. Tashnaktagan Mereti. It's interesting. And then suddenly this becomes the national anthem of the First Armenian Republic. Convoluted. Then there is a very interesting anecdote in Krikor's book. As was told, Hampartun Berberian was his teacher. And Hampartun Berberian was on a tour, this is happening in 1952. He was on a tour in America and he was going back to Beirut. And his son, Vahe Berberian, was studying at Santa Cecilia Music School near Rome. And, you know, the father had to change planes in Rome, and there was a little time there, and father and son wanted to meet and all of that. So the plane was coming to Rome, and the son came to Rome, and you know, they talked and all of that, but there was still some more time. And Mr. Beberian, you know, Beberian Senior, after all that travel, he was tired, and there was 2 hours or so for the plane. He just wanted to rest. But young Beberian, Vahe Beberian, wanted some culture, and they were doing the Cavaliera Rusticana at the opera and wanted to attend it. But Mr. Beberian Senior said, no, I'm much too tired. So he went to a restaurant, and he ate, apparently, according to your report, he enjoyed the food. Yes. And there was entertainment also at the restaurant. And suddenly this, was it properly dressed, the lady singer? You don't know, he didn't tell you it, he wouldn't. Anyway, she got up and she sang Mer Hayrenik in Italian. Then, you know, it was time for the plane to leave, and the poor Vahe left the opera in half and came to the restaurant to take his father to the airport. And Mr. Beberian said, you know, they sang Mer Hayrenik. Just go to the stage and see what the music is and try to get it for me. I'd like to have a copy of this thing. And Vahe jumped up to the stage and went to the band leader and said, is there any way I can borrow or purchase this music? He said, no, this is my only copy. And Vahe didn't tell me this, but they told Krigor about it. It was, the title was in red letters. He remembers it very vividly. If he had gotten the music, we would have known exactly what the origin of Mer Hayrenik is. Now, jump to 1991, and there is an independent Republic of Armenia, and they need a song. They need a national hymn, anthem. And what happens is, Loris Chiknavorian, who was the conductor of the symphony, and Louis Simon and Pare Korzagan had done a great deal to support this. Somehow he finagled Mr. Chuknavorian and got that Mer Hayrenik from Gananchian and introduced it to the parliament, and the law passed. And that became the national anthem of Armenia. To date, there's a great deal of anhamatsainutyun. Do you know that word?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. About it. And a lot of us, me included, I feel that, you know, the hymn that was composed by Khachaturian as the national anthem of the Armenian Republic, Soviet Armenian Republic, should have been used because it's a beautiful, beautiful one. And the new words would have been adopted, and it would have become a real Armenian national anthem. On the side, on the bar line, let me just tell you that Khachaturian's national anthem was going to become the Soviet Union's national anthem. But when Stalin found out that it was written by an Armenian, he said, absolutely not. No Armenian is writing the Soviet Union's national anthem. Babajanian actually had written the anthem for Soviet Armenia. So Babajanian's anthem was just discarded, and Khachaturian's anthem, written for the Soviet Union, became Armenia's national anthem. A lot of politicking going on. But anyway, so it's half-baked. It's not quite completed. I think they will have to pass a rule, because I mean, why do we have to use? I don't know whether it's Italian. The Glazunov uses the material in the Cortège Hongroise. I don't know whether it has some kind of Hungarian origin. No idea. I have asked a couple of musicologists who specialize in Italian music, and they said, you know, we don't know this, it doesn't sound Italian, it's not Italian. I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe we'll do some further research, and maybe Mr. Pidejan will find out what it is, and that'll be huge news. Anyway, But the book, Mer Hayrek's story is interesting, but I think the importance of Kara-Murza is the fact that he introduced, he was a social evolutionary. He brought the men and the women together, and they sang together in a chorus. There was no such thing before. Men sang separately, like in the church it's supposed to be, not anymore here, or women sang separately. Kara-Murza was the first composer to bring men and women together to sing as a group. And he wrote music for 4 voices: soprano, mezzo, tenor, and bass. That was also a novel, at least in Caucasus. I think in Istanbul, Çuharcan did things like that in the opera Arshak II. On a Czech record, Ureman. Also, you know, there are fascinating stories about Şahan Arzruni. I mean, we think of Şahan Arzruni as a wonderful fatherly figure. Apparently, he was like that to outsiders. But behind closed doors, he was a nasty man. And, he talks all about that also. And also, there were all kinds of problems Kara-Murza had, because Kara-Murza was Armenian Catholic. He belonged to the Mkhitaryan. And the Armenian apostolics would not tolerate him, and they didn't allow him to teach at the Gemaran, and all kinds of lovely things that are part of our Armenian culture and community and all of that. But I got to know Krikor, what, 5-6 years ago, and we became intimate. I knew about him before then, but for the last 5-6 years, I have become very fond of him. He is a proud Armenian more than anything else. He's a solid scholar, and he has a keen intellect. He's humorous, he's gentle, gentile, and kind man, and I enjoy his friendship, and I value his camaraderie. Thank you. That's all I have to say. Okay, now what is this? We are not
No, we're
going to
getting, yeah, we might. But in the interim, let's invite Baron Bidezna.
Okay, let me sit down.
Yes, yes.
Hey?